Well, thank you. It is a real honor to be here. It's been so cool to get to journey with the students here. And sorry that I haven't been around so much on Sundays. Just like Tim said, some other things with my family and all that going on. But it has been an honor to get to be a part of this community kind of during the week and behind the scenes and hanging out with our students here. And I'm especially pumped to get to come speak at Burnett this Sunday. Mostly the biggest reason, a lot of reasons, but the biggest reason is I feel like I'm preaching at the Super Bowl halftime show in front of the Jumbotron here. I have not had the opportunity to preach in in front of one of these things yet. So anyways, if I'm turning around and just like getting lost, it's kind of like, when you're at a restaurant and you're like, yeah, the conversation's super interesting, but there are all these flashing TVs around you. I might get lost in that as well. We are going to be looking at John 11 this morning, like Tim said. So if you've got a device or, it's on your phone or you got a tablet or something, or for some of you don't know this, but the Bible's available in print now. So if you have one of these too, feel free. It's also going to be on the giant karaoke machine behind me. I'm excited to dig into this passage. When Tim first invited me, I was like, oh man, I'd love to come. I love talking about Jesus. I love digging into the Bible. And then I was like, so what am I looking at? He's like, John 11, death of Lazarus. And I'm kind of like, oh, yeah, this is so cool. Jesus is going to go heal this guy. But then I was like, man, this is actually a long chapter. You kind of forget sometimes. And so Tim and I kind of talked about it. He's like, yeah, probably just the first part, like just where he's dead, right? And I'm like, oh, man. I was like, Tim, but that's what you do to like one-off guest speakers, right? It's kind of like when you're at a pizza party and you go last and all that's left is that gross deluxe pizza with like the peppers and the olives and stuff like that. It's kind of like, Tim, thanks for the starting of John 11. I appreciate it. So anyways, it's great. So I'm here for it. So here's what we're going to do. Since it's such an honor to be filling in for Claria. She's amazing. Since I am working with the students, what we do at youth is we do a lot of fun things and all that. But the core of what we do, I love the Bible. The Bible's so exciting. I'm so sad that it's not very popular in the church today and that we're kind of losing interest, but I love it. And so what we do, most at youth, the main thing we do is when we get together on a weekly basis, the teaching, we look at a text from the Bible. We talk about it, and then we do that in small groups as well. But when I say we talk about it, it's not just me getting up, and although I am full of incredible thoughts, guys, trust me. Even if you don't hear some this morning, trust me, there's a lot there. But we don't just do that. We usually around tables, we read the passage, and then people share ideas with each other. And then I'll even get people to kind of share them with the group, and it's amazing. So you might already see where this is going. So we're going to bring a little bit of a flavor of what we do at student ministry on Wednesdays this morning. So I'm going to read the passage, and I'm going to get you guys to turn to, I know this is weird, but turn and talk to some other humans around you. And then after that, usually this part I save for later so that it's kind of like the fine print, but I'm just going to give it all to you now. After that, I'm going to ask a few people to actually share what popped up in your group. So we're just going to take a few minutes to share something. We're going to have a mic run around and stuff like that. And maybe that sounds a little bit uncomfortable, and this is usually when people would say, oh, I'm sorry for making you feel uncomfortable, or I'm not going to do that because I'm a temp and I'm a guest speaker, so just try to fire me, right? So it doesn't really matter. So if you don't like the color of the building, it was my choice, okay? It doesn't matter. It's like I'm out here sometimes. So, okay, if you love it, Tim's idea. Okay, great. We're looking at John 11. I'm going to read it. We're going to read it together. And then you're going to turn to a few neighbors. I'll give you a few minutes. Just chat about it. And really, you don't have to say anything crazy. You could talk about a question you have for me. You're like, I have no idea what's going on here. Or maybe something you don't like. Maybe something you love. Maybe something you think, I think this is kind of the point. Or this is what God's saying to me in this. So John chapter 11, starting at the beginning. Now a man named Lazarus was sick. He was from Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. This Mary, whose brother Lazarus now lay sick, was the same one who poured perfume on the Lord and wiped his feet with her hair. So the sisters sent word to Jesus, Lord, the one you love is sick. When he heard this, Jesus said, this sickness will not end in death. No, it is for God's glory, so that God's Son may be glorified through it. Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. So when he heard that Lazarus was sick, he stayed where he was 2 more days. And then he said to his disciples, let us go back to Judea. But Rabbi, they said, a short while ago the Jews there tried to stone you, and yet you are going back? Jesus answered, are there not 12 hours of daylight? Anyone who walks in the daytime will not stumble, for they see by this world's light. It is when a person walks at night that they stumble, for they have no light. After he said this, he went on to tell them, "Our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I am going there to wake him up." His disciples replied, "Lord, if he sleeps, he will get better." Jesus had been speaking of his death, but his disciples thought he meant natural sleep. So he told them more plainly, "Lazarus is dead, and for your sake I am glad I was not there, so that you may believe. But let us go to him." Then Thomas, also known as Didymus, said to the rest of the disciples, "Let us also go, that we may die with him." So John 11, 1 through 16, about 3 minutes, turn to some other humans around you, and just chat about the passage. What's it mean to you? What sticks out? What's interesting? Ready, set, go ahead. All right. This is the in-person version of your Zoom breakout room coming to a sudden end and just the thought being cut off. Okay. So here's the cool thing about I'm going to get some people to share some things that came up in their group, but here's what's really cool. You right now can share to the room that amazing, brilliant thought that someone else in your group said, and we're all just going to give you credit for it. So this is an amazing opportunity to plagiarize in a really positive way. So anyways, who would love to share something interesting that popped up in their group? Who would love to go first? Yeah, there we go. Trevor, my man. You notice how I said who would love to go first? Because when people say, who would anybody like to, then it's a no. But Trevor would love to. I knew it. So go ahead.
Thanks, Ryan. Yeah, people who go first get the benefit of the doubt, right? Because it's always going to be good. I'm going to plagiarize, actually, since you said that idea, that Sandy had a great thought that this passage is such a great reminder of anything's possible through God. Death being so final, this is like a reminder that it's not even death is final. And I was trying to figure out if the 12 hours of sunlight had any relevance, so my thoughts were less, interesting.
I love it. Thanks for sharing that, Trevor. Awesome. A couple more. Who's next? Who would love to go next? Right there. And sorry, what's your name? I don't think we've met.
My name is Iris.
Pardon me?
Iris.
Iris. Thank you, Iris.
I met you last week.
Oh.
I introduced myself to you.
You look different under the glowing karaoke machine here.
And you said, actually, this is my first time at Burnett. And I said, oh, welcome. I hope you enjoyed it, or something like that. And you said, well, actually, I am the youth pastor for Guerra, and I've never been before, but I have to go somewhere else on Sundays. I think something like that.
You know, Iris, a lot of people would have just been like, yeah, nice to meet you, Ryan. But you decided, you relayed the whole conversation, making me look like a terrible dirtbag up here. So thank you for that. So, it's great.
No, I thought it was kind of neat that somebody greeted you before you got even into the church.
Yeah, it's good to
Sorry, talk to me
it's good
in
to
an
re-meet
airport.
you.
I do the same thing.
I'm just kidding. I love it. I would love to hear your John 11 thought.
Okay, John 11, ready. Okay, we wondered why Jesus talked about, when you walk in the darkness, you stumble. And Steve thought it was because what do you call them? The disciples were not understanding that he wasn't sleeping, he was dead. And Steve also thought that it possibly is probably a foreshadowing of when Jesus died, because we think this happened just before that. I'll let somebody else talk.
It's awesome. Thanks,
now.
Iris and Steve. Okay, one or two more. Who's next? Yeah, right here. Oh, or somewhere else. I don't know.
Which one?
You pick. Pick your favorite. Oh, good choice.
Obviously. We were talking, and I guess it was just me. What? It was something that stood out to me was when it said Jesus really loved Lazarus and Martha? Was it? Yes? I just thought it was interesting because Jesus loves us all, so I thought it was interesting that they went out of the way to say that, and I was kind of curious about what it was about them and their personalities that he loved so much about them.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's great. Okay, last one. We'll wrap up with this. Save the best for last, I hope.
No pressure.
Yeah.
Just we had a little bit of a thought that it was interesting that Thomas was the one who was talking about Jesus sleeping, and Thomas is also known as Doubting Thomas. And that John wrote in a lot of metaphors, and the death could also be a metaphor for idols that we probably should consider giving up and worshiping Jesus instead of just the idols. So.
That was good. Those are all great. So I think we're done here. Those are better thoughts than I have prepared. So it's okay. Thanks for sharing that. Hey, if you enjoyed that, we do that every Wednesday at Youth, and we are always looking for some amazing adults who would love to come and invest in the next generation. Kind of a joke, but seriously, really cool opportunity to come and just do simply that and invest in some teenagers. So here's the deal with this passage. It's a pretty, are you coming after? Oh, you're just coming up there. Okay. It's like, I thought he was coming for me. My time was up or something. Here's the thing. A lot of passages, like you read when Jesus says, you're the light of the world, you're the salt of the earth. It's pretty like kind of straightforward what the point is. There's nothing that straightforward what the point is in these 16 verses, which is great. So I'm not going to have some big QR code for you to scan at the end and be like, if you do this thing, you'll live out John chapter 11. I mean, the clearest call to action here is probably just to be dead, right? Because that's what it's about. It's about a dead guy. And that's not going to be our takeaway this week. But so I'm not going to have that. What we're going to do is we're just going to work through these 16 verses, looking at some thoughts, sharing some things, just like you guys did. And my hope is that in that time, we just look at the story of Jesus and spend some time together marveling at who Jesus is. So let's start at the beginning. Now, a man named Lazarus was sick. By the way, the name Lazarus means God has helped, or God is my helper. God's my help. It's a cool name. He was from Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. This Mary, whose brother Lazarus now lay sick, was the same one who poured perfume on the Lord and wiped his feet with her hair. So the sister sent word to Jesus, Lord, the one you love is sick. Now, we all know, like, most of us have heard the story before, and if not, you've probably picked up by now that, like, Jesus is eventually later in the chapter going to bring Lazarus back to life. Hopefully that's not too much of a spoiler at this point. But if you don't know that, you're allowed to go home and finish reading John chapter 11. It's really exciting. The good news is Brooklyn Nine-Nine and This Is Us, like those are on demand, so you can those will wait for you, and you can finish this chapter. It's a really cool story. Jesus is going to bring Lazarus back to life. Some scholars, some commentators say that this might be like Jesus's actually like most like profound or most like almost like most miraculous miracle, right? Which is interesting because it's just one dude, right? Like, you know, think about like feeding 5,000 people or walking on water or like all these other crazy things, turning water into wine. That's a lot of people. Well, it's a Baptist church, so it might be a mixed audience here, but that's a lot of people. That's probably their favorite miracle, right? But it's like, this is like a real, I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about alcohol, but I'll do another one. This is a real like hold my beer moment for Jesus, right? It's like he rolls up his sleeves. He's like, we know that Jesus is going to let Lazarus like sit for a while. Lazarus is going to bake in a tomb, right? He's going to get like ripe, and Jesus is going to do something incredible. Now, the scene is set, though, with these people, Mary and Martha. Maybe you've heard that story where Jesus is actually hanging out in Mary and Martha's house, and, Martha's cooking and cleaning and all this stuff, and she's working hard, and Mary's just chilling with Jesus. These are Jesus's friends. These aren't just people who are kind of faithfully obeying Jesus. These aren't just people who kind of know Jesus. These are people like kind of like in Jesus's small group. These are people in Jesus's life. He hangs out with them. He loves them and he knows them. Mary like put perfume on Jesus's feet and wiped it with her hair. I mean, I've never had that done to me. I could probably do that for someone. Maybe I'll do it for Tim sometime. But I've never had someone do that. But that's a pretty close, intimate experience. Jesus really loves these people. And someone had mentioned, it's like interesting kind of this comment later, he loved these people. And this is written by John, the disciple who, in this book will refer to himself as the disciple that Jesus loved. He's big on pointing out that Jesus really, really loved people. He had some close friends. I love this line in verse 3. The sisters sent word to Jesus, Lord, the one you love is sick. Now, a lot of us, I think, when we like present requests or whatever, we're kind of like, hey, could you please? It's like, but these ladies, they present their requests the same. I have a 4-year-old daughter named Katana and a 7-year-old daughter named Avra. The same way my daughters ask me for things, right? I'd love it if they just woke up in the morning, big smiles, came and hugged me and said, Daddy, you know what? Thank you so much for providing for me. Thank you that you work and that you buy groceries. I know they're pretty cheap nowadays. And it's like, thank you so much for providing. I was wondering, out of the goodness and kindness and generosity of your heart, Dad, could I please have some of the food to satiate the hunger that I'm experiencing right now? No, Dad, I'm hungry, right? That's what I hear. I'm thirsty. I'm this, I'm that. You know, it's just they throw out some kind of complaint or issue going on in their world. They expect for me to fulfill it. Now, in some ways it frustrates me, and I'm trying to teach them how to be more civil human beings. But at the same time, what it expresses is a pretty deep level of trust, right? They know that if there's an issue, they're hungry, they need something, and it's expressed, and I'm aware of it, and I am aware of it usually, then I'll provide for them. We've got that track record. I love the relationship that's really highlighted here. These ladies know, they're just like, Jesus, Lazarus is sick. They just say it. And they, I don't know if it's the most polite way, but they know that Jesus is going to care about that. They know that Jesus, as Lazarus' name means, has helped. Jesus has provided. He has healed people. He's taken care of people. They must be thinking, Jesus heals like randos on the side of the road, right? Like there's like a blind guy shouting out, we're all annoyed, and Jesus is like, yeah, sure, healing. You know, it's like one time Jesus, like, this lady just touched his robe. Jesus didn't even mean to heal her, and she got healed. For sure, Lazarus, like his boy, like Jesus loves Lazarus. So they send this word, and they're like, Jesus, he's sick. They trust what they remember about Jesus to be true. When he heard this, Jesus said, this sickness will not end in death. It's interesting because we know it actually will. He will die. No, it is for God's glory so that God's Son may be glorified through it. This passage, like these 16 verses are loaded with a lot of stuff, and we just can't dive into all of it. What is Jesus talking about there? We can't dig into all of that. But there is this observation of God's glory coming to the middle of this, which is really interesting because we're talking about a situation that's not so great, right? Like someone's sick, there's nothing too interesting going on, but Jesus starts to point the situation back to his glory. How often do we do that when we're sick, right? Like how often do we do that when things are tough, when things aren't going well? How often do we think in that context of like, okay, well, what I really hope right now that I'm sick or I'm going through something hard or I've lost my job or this relationship's broken, what I really hope for is just God to be glorified, right? Is that what we do? No, God, would you heal me? Just like, God, I don't want to cough anymore, right? I don't want to be sick. Get rid of this. Give me a job, God. Help me pass the test I forgot to study for. By forgot, I mean binge Netflix all night instead of studying. But it's like, do the thing. Usually our focus is, hey, God, could you just deal with these tough situations rather than, hey, God, I'm so excited to see what you have in store. Or, hey, God, would you keep me in this difficult situation as long as it will bring you glory? We'll come back to exactly maybe a little bit what's in view there in a minute. But in verse 5, it continues. It says, now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. And apparently the Apostle John didn't know about using commas in lists of names. But so when he heard that Lazarus was sick, he stayed where he was 2 more days. That doesn't make any sense, right? Oh, he loves them so much. So when he heard he was sick, he did nothing. What was he doing for 2 days? Like playing pickleball with his friends? Like what's going on? That's your call to action? You guys ever like at a store and you ask for some help with something and the employee's like, oh yeah, for sure, I'll do that. And then they sit down and you're like, no, I mean like tomorrow or next week. I mean, like, I was at Shoppers the other day, and I was at the till, and I could see in the aisle these 2 guys are kind of doing some stuff at the shelves, and they could see me, and I'm standing there, and there's no one at the till. Like, I want to buy the thing, I'm like trying to do the thing that Shoppers exists for. They're trying to take my money, and I'm trying to give it to them, right? And it's like they're just standing, they're doing their thing over there, and I'm just thinking, like, what the heck, guys? Like, come, like, Jesus, your boy is sick. And he's like, all right, I love you so much. And I care so much about that. I'm just going to chill here for a couple days. Doesn't make any sense. But after those 2 days, he said to his disciples, let us go back to Judea. Now, earlier in John, you're going to read, if you read through the book of John, if you haven't read the book of John, by the way, it's pretty awesome. And it doesn't take too long to read. You can read it. But in John chapter 2, John chapter 7, now John chapter 11, there's a story of Jesus like delaying. The story of Jesus kind of seems like he's just pausing, putting things off. He's in a little bit of a different time schedule than we live in Canada in 2025, where he's just like, yeah, he's just going to pause. And he invites, I think, almost like this space for patience, for like his glory and his power to be revealed kind of on the outside of people's patience. I struggle with patience so much, man. I get an idea and it's like now. I go on Amazon and it says this is going to take 4 days to deliver, and I'm like, I don't think so. Like, I got to order something else. I don't know if I'll be around in 4 days. I can't do that. That's crazy. It's like, it's like Canada Post. It's like, they're like, oh, we want people to experience our glory in 2025, so we'll just put it off for 8 weeks, No, I just can't. It's a bad joke. If there are any postal workers here, grateful for you, okay? But it's like waiting is tough. But Jesus does this a few times in John. And in John chapter 7, there's actually a story of Jesus not going to Judea because the people there wanted to kill him. It says he didn't want to go because people wanted to kill him. But here he says, let's go to Judea, where Lazarus is. But Rabbi, they said, a short while ago the Jews there tried to stone you, and yet you are going back? They're like, what? Are you crazy, Jesus? These people want to kill you. And it's interesting because, like, Jesus doesn't have to go to Judea, right? Like, he's healed from a distance before. I don't know if any of you, I used to work with this guy who I'd send him an email, and a lot of the times, inevitably, he would come walk across the building and come to my office and respond in person. And I was always like, just hit reply, like emails, you can write back, right? Jesus could heal from a distance, right? Like, he could GPS that thing and just be, Lazarus, he's good. He's like out of the tomb right now. He's hanging with his friends and stuff like that. But Jesus decides we're going to go to Judea. And one of the great things, if you are ever getting to preach or whatever, is you just go and you talk to someone smarter than you are about the passage. And so I went and sat with Tim, and I was like, what's interesting to you about John 11? And he just said a bunch of words, and I've probably already plagiarized some of it. But one of the things he said that really stood out to me was he said, this is the passage where Jesus literally signs his own death warrant. Jesus doesn't just get killed in the Bible. Jesus doesn't just get crucified. Jesus literally walks into it, eyes wide open, and signs up for it as a person who literally signs his own death warrant. He walks to Judea already knowing and already having experienced that feeling of, I don't want to go because people there might kill me. Jesus is like, that's it. Lazarus is sick, and I love Lazarus. And I love Mary, and I love Martha, and I am the one who helps, and I am the one who takes care of people. His disciples are arguing with him, I think because they've forgotten who Jesus is. How often do we do this? Going back to that picture of my daughters, they remember that I've fed them most times. And they remember that I've even put up a lot of times with their bad asking for food and stuff like that. They know that even if they're not behaving properly, I'm going to put food on the table. Throughout Scripture, we see this routine of people just forgetting who God is. When you read through Exodus, the Israelites wandering through the wilderness, they just forget who God is. They continue to forget what he's done for them. And he always reminds them. The 10 Commandments, he's like, remember, I'm the one that set you free from slavery. He has to keep telling them. We're reading it, we're like, don't they know about this? He has to keep reminding them. And even at the Last Supper, Jesus says, do this, why? In remembrance of me. Don't forget. How regularly do we forget how good God's been in our lives? And the disciples seem to often lose view of this, lose sight of this. And I think it's easy for us to be like, oh, those morons, how could they forget and stuff like that. But how regularly do we do that? Do we get down and just, literally before I got up here, we sang 3 songs in a row. One was you're good, you're never going to let me down. You're never going to let me down. We sang that song. We're singing it over and over and over. And then we sang another song. It's I put my trust in God. And then one after that was you are perfect in all of your ways. You're a good, good Father. And we sing that. It's pretty easy to do. It's pretty hard not to when it's on a 7,000-inch HD TV right in front of us, right? But we sing that, and then we're going to go out of here. And we're going to get cranky about someone cutting us off, or we're going to get upset because something doesn't go our way. We're going to get discouraged because something hard happens in our lives. And things discourage us and they come up, and the first thing we do is we just lose sight of who Jesus is and forget, oh, God could be glorified in this situation. Even if I go through something tough, I could grow in this situation. I could learn something. I could gain something. And really what I can do is I can just put trust in God, my Savior. He's good. I wonder if one of the reasons I don't know all the reasons the disciples had a hard time remembering. I wonder if one of the reasons we have a hard time remembering in 2025, and I kind of alluded to this earlier, is because we're probably one of the most detached, I won't say probably, I believe we are the most detached from Scripture generation that's existed in hundreds of years of the church. Now, that's not what everything comes down to. But when we're people who literally have like the voice of God written out for us, we've got it, it's in print everywhere. You can get it, if you don't have a copy, just go stay a night in a hotel. You can still get one for free in there. I'm amazed they're still there and stuff like that. But it's like there's an app on your phone that has like 800 billion versions of the Bible and stuff like that. We have it everywhere. We don't really spend much time listening to God's voice. Well, of course we kind of forget what he's like. Of course we forget who he is. Who he is he's someone who helps so much that he is willing to lay down his life for other people. He's someone who is willing not only to say, sure, you know what, push came to shove, I'll give my life so this person doesn't have to, but just this random guy named Lazarus is sick in the Bible. And Jesus says, I'm going to go risk my whole life just to heal this person in person. He could just FaceTime him and be like, hey, Lazarus, get out of the tomb. I'm going to go do it in person. Now, I've tried to think of good analogies or ways to express the depth and the meaning of this. And what I was able to find is, I think, probably one of the closest and most, like, visceral expressions of what Jesus' willingness to lay down and sacrifice his life. And I got a video clip to show you of, I think, one of the greatest and closest expressions to that has happened in the history of humankind. So you can check this out.
Look at that. He's making me cry.
I am looking for qualities beyond the physical.
Do you know how long it took to set up this project? All the groveling I had to do in front of Senator What's-His-Name's committees?
Yes, I know. I am well aware of your efforts.
Then throw me a bone. Hodge passed every test we gave him. He's big, he's fast, he obeys orders, he's a soldier.
He's a bully.
You don't win wars with niceness, Doctor. You win wars with guts. Grenade! Oh, Burnett! Get away! Get back!
Dummy grenade. All clear. Back in formation.
All right, that's probably enough. I was kidding about visceral. This is, I just wanted to throw something Marvel in there. But first, before we go on, can we just talk about the girl in the scene? And not, like, this isn't like a gender thing. Just like, she ran to watch, you know? It's like, did she just not know what a grenade was? Anyways, I had never thought through that scene like that before, but I watched this a few times. Everyone runs and hides. Captain America lays on the grenade, and she's just like, let's go see what happens. I'm like, that's crazy. Okay, so I don't know what happened there. We love scenes like that in movies, right? Like, this is the arc and flow of so many heroic movies and stories. It's that moment where Gandalf goes and he puts his staff down and he faces with the beast and he might get killed and stuff like that. It's a scene where the hero, they go and they step into certain death to give their life, and they're like, I'm going to give my life for this person. Is that scene where Captain America, Steve Rogers, I think that's his name. I'm not good at movie lore, but he jumps on the grenade and he gives his life. And we love to identify with that, right? We're like, oh, I'd lay my life down for people. I'd give my life. I'd be the hero. Most of us are those other guys, right? Hiding behind the Jeeps, you know. Maybe we don't look like that. I mean, I kind of look like Buff Jack, you know, young army guys. But it's like, you know, we're hiding behind there like scared. Like, most of us won't even give up a good parking spot at Costco for the person that we were clearly there 3 seconds before, right? Most of us won't give much of our convenience and our desire just to put someone first, especially when we're not going to get credit for it. It's hard for us, right? We've been trained to be selfish, and it's so easy to do that. Most of us won't give up much of our time or our money or our energy for others. Yeah, I think we'd like to think that we're the type of person that would just lay down our lives. One of the things that's highlighted so clearly in this text is how human Jesus is. In church, you often hear people say, Jesus is fully God, but he's fully human. Sometimes I think we forget, like, he actually was fully human. He loved people. He had emotions. He had friends. He didn't want to go to Judea. earlier in the story because people were going to kill him. Yeah, he lays down his life. Most of us probably look a little bit more like this picture. This is a dad at this biking event, and the guy's coming over the rail, and he's hiding behind his daughter, using her as a human meat shield, so he doesn't get hit. There's a really good, clear picture of that. He's holding that'd be me. That's what kids are for, right? They're resilient. They'll heal. Most of us do that. Jesus is just like, let's go to Judea. I'm looking at the clock. We got to hurry up. We got some ground to cover here. Okay. Jesus answered, "Are there not 12 hours of daylight? Anyone who walks in the daytime will not stumble, for they see by this world's light. It is when a person walks at night that they stumble, for they have no light." We could spend, I think, hours there. And especially if you go read commentaries online, there are a lot of ideas. Here's a quick thought that I read in one commentary that I thought was really cool. Their idea was like, perhaps Jesus is saying, we have enough time to do what we need to do. Jesus has enough time to do what he needs to do. That represents the day. But everything comes to an end. There's a night coming. And Jesus, earlier when he's talking about his glory, no, it is for God's glory that God's Son may be glorified through it. There actually is this death coming. Lazarus' sickness is going to end in a death, and it's Jesus' death, and he is going to be glorified as he dies on the cross for the sins of all people, to offer forgiveness and to come back to life himself. Verse 11, after he had said this, he went on to tell them, "Our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I am going there to wake him up." His disciples didn't get it. They said, "Lord, if he sleeps, he'll get better. It's good. He's just got to nap it off." Jesus had been speaking of his death, but his disciples thought he meant natural sleep. So Jesus comes back. You ever have this when you make a joke, you say something, and just people don't get it? A bit ago, I was talking to my daughter, and I was like, "Avra, I'm not going to say this again." And so I said my thing, and then she went back to saying and doing and asking what she was doing. I was like, "Didn't you hear me?" She's like, "Yeah, you said you weren't going to say it again." I was like, no, that is not what I meant. I'm going to say it again. And it's like, these disciples, they didn't get it. Jesus is going around with a bunch of toddlers, and I think that's like his relationship with us. So he told them plainly, "All right, guys, Lazarus is dead, and for your sake, I am glad I was not there, so that you may believe. But let us go to him." Jesus has this really cool opportunity to like build faith in the hearts of his disciples. He's like, I'm glad I wasn't there because you guys wouldn't get to experience the enormity of this. When they get there, Lazarus is going to be dead for 4 days. Like his body is like falling apart and decomposing and stuff. And I have so many questions. Like Lazarus was sick enough that he died. So how much does Jesus rewind that? Does he just bring him back to life because then he's still sick? Or like, are you doing the time stone thing? Yeah, I was thinking of that too, but I didn't know how Marvel I wanted to go. But anyways, okay, but it's like, if he just brought him back to life, he'd still have the sickness that killed him, right? And Lazarus had like the sores on it, like he's decomposing. So is it like in like a Marvel movie or like Wolverine where they like, you watch them, they heal up? Like what happens? This is a crazy miracle that Jesus is about to pull off. He put off for a long time, and he put his glory on display in a crazy way. And this closing, this was mentioned from someone earlier. Then Thomas, also known as Didymus, which means twin, said to the rest of the disciples, "Let us also go so that we may die with him." Thomas gets mentioned in a couple lists. He gets mentioned once where he asks a question. It's a reasonable question. He gets mentioned once here in this great statement of faith. Let's go and we'll give up our lives too. And he gets mentioned once where he doubts that Jesus came back to life. And of course, what does he get named? Doubting Thomas. It's like a good interaction and a bad interaction. Why don't we call him willing to die Thomas or like martyr Thomas or like, this is awesome stuff. Poor guy messes up once and John's like, that's it, and it's like doubting Thomas for the rest of his life. I think a lot of us could probably identify with that, right? Those great moments of faith. Oh, I'm all in on you, Jesus. You're good. You're good. You're never going to let me down. Then during the week, I don't know. I got a lot of doubts. Here's what I think I will really reflect on with this passage. And again, I don't have some big takeaway. We have a Jesus who is very human. He gets what it's like to be scared of people who want to hurt him. He gets what it's like to really love people. He gets what it's like to go through some hard things, to have real emotional experiences. to experience the brokenness and the chaos of life. He gets that. And he journeys through that with us. And even though he's human, a human who doesn't want to die, a human who still would maybe take Tylenol for a headache like we would if he lived today, a human who has those experiences, he still puts off everything that matters to him to give to those around him. He still puts off all of it. And it's so much more than words. In action, he steps out and he says, I'll sign my death warrant. I'll give up my rights. I'll give up my desires. I'll give up what's best for me so that I can serve other people, so that I can give to other people, so that I can put other people first. And he doesn't just do that as a God who's like, I got it all figured out. He does that as a human being, still fully God, but as a human experiencing all the things that we experience because he loves us so much. For me, I'm like, man, what would it take for me to stop from forgetting and to continue to really remember that that's who Jesus is? And what would it take for me to really embody that kind of living, where despite all my very human experiences, I can put the needs and the interests of other humans first and still serve other people the way Jesus serves us. Band's going to come up. I'd love to pray for you guys. Or Tim, are you doing something? Oh, Tim wants to do something. Okay. Never mind. The band is not going to come up. I'd still love to pray. Am I allowed to do that one? Okay, that's okay. Anything else? No, okay, good. Let's pray, guys. Jesus, you're amazing, incredible, good, kind. It's a tough life you live, Jesus. You literally came just to suffer for us, which is crazy. And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that you endured the pain and the hardship, the challenges, that you loved us, that you put us first. Thank you that you are the God who helps, the God who cares for us, the God who sets your interests aside to serve us and to invest in us well. Thank you that we can trust that you're our helper. We love you, Jesus. Amen. Well, thanks, guys. Thanks so much, Tim.